Fox News alert as the nation today pauses to remember Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a war of words erupting between President-elect Donald Trump and civil rights icon John Lewis, and all just days before Mr. Trump is to be sworn in as America's 45th president. This after the Georgia Democrat questioned the incoming president's legitimacy. Mr. Trump not holding back. This is Outnumbered. Hi, happy Monday. I'm Sandra Smith here today. Harris Faulkner. Megyn McCain is here, host of Kennedy on Fox Business Kennedy, and today's hashtag One Lucky Guy. The former senator from the great state of Massachusetts and Fox News contributor, Senator Scott Brown. And he is outnumbered, and good to see you back, sir.
Good to see you, everybody. Happy New Year.
Yeah, so much going on in a huge week.
Yeah, great week.
Huge week.
Great week.
Okay.
I love when we go back and forth.
All right, we'll get more on that in just a minute. We begin with the new partisan fight after Congressman John Lewis questioned the legitimacy of Mr. Trump's election win. Lewis explaining why he feels this way in an interview with Meet the Press.
I believe in trying to work with people. It's going to be hard. It's going to be very difficult. I don't see this president-elect as a legitimate president. I think the Russians participated in helping this man get elected, and they helped destroy the candidacy of Hillary Clinton. I think there was a conspiracy on the part of the Russians and others to help him get elected.
President-elect Trump not letting the explosive remarks slide, slamming the Democrat on Twitter, saying, quote, Congressman John Lewis should spend more time on fixing and helping his district, which is in horrible shape and falling apart, not to mention crime-infested, rather than falsely complaining about the election results. All talk, 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 no action or results. Sad. Mr. Trump's tweets triggering a storm of criticism, mainly from Democrats. But Vice President-elect Mike Pence defended his boss.
I think Donald Trump has the right to defend himself. For someone to use his stature, to use terms like this is not a legitimate president, it's just deeply disappointing to me, and I hope he reconsiders it. But what Donald Trump was talking about there was literally generations of failed policies coming out of Washington, D.C. that have failed too many families in too many cities across this country.
Well, first of all, did Representative Lewis go too far in questioning Donald Trump's legitimacy and his win?
Well, first of all, I know Rep. Lewis, a lot of respect for what he's done and accomplished in his life, but he's the president of everybody, President-elect Trump, and it's very similar to being in the military when you have a general you don't like. You may not like him, but you have to respect the rank of general. Very similar. If you don't like the president, you have to respect the presidency, because it's what makes our country so great and different from really every other country in the world. So I'm hoping he reconsiders as well, because like it or not, he's going to have to work with the president-elect, a Republican-controlled Congress, a Republican-controlled Senate, a president that's a Republican. A lot of things are going to be happening. He can either be on the outside or be on the inside, trying to solve problems for not only his district and his state, but for this country.
And then you saw the president-elect's response on Twitter. That's giving the left more ammunition to complain about his use of Twitter and the way he responds to things like this.
Listen, it's Martin Luther King Day, and Congressman Lewis is a civil rights icon. He just is. He's actually one of the few congressmen I remember meeting as a child. My father specifically took me to his office to meet him. Cut to 2008, where Congressman Lewis accused my father and Sarah Palin of being like George Wallace and pushing segregation policies. He also attacked Mitt Romney when he was running, race baiting him and making sort of several claims against him as well. Being a civil rights icon doesn't make you immune to political criticism, especially when you're a congressman. I find it beneath him in many different ways, and I think this rhetoric that we're using right now is very dangerous. And I am so deeply saddened that this is where we're at, that he can't see the bigger picture, that we all need to work together as Americans. And again, it's particularly harsh on this Martin Luther King Day that this is what we're discussing.
And you're echoing the sentiment heard from incoming White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus, who's saying that President Obama should be asking Democrats to grow up and step up. Listen to this.
We are preparing for the transfer of power, and we have been working with President Obama hand in glove. And I think that they, including the president, should step up and get his people in line and tell them to grow up and accept the fact that they lost the election.
Harris?
You know, I see this as a collision of whether or not we're going to respect the past or the future. And we're kind of caught in this place. I think we need to have an adult conversation about appropriateness of time and words. And Congressman Lewis is free to express himself however he wants. In fact, we all are, as long as it harms no one. However, the appropriateness of time and place for him makes me question not just his judgment on what he said, but his motive on what he said. Is it really about bringing blacks or people of color forward and taking the past and making it useful in the present and in the future? Or is it just tearing down what the Democrats hate right now because they lost in November?
Kennedy, outgoing White House Chief of Staff Dennis McDonough, he believes that Trump was the freely elected president. He does, however, say that the concerns raised by Lewis are not trivial. He says the president-elect should reach out to Lewis and have a conversation. Is that how this should go down?
I wouldn't be surprised if that's how it does go down. In fact, and we've seen the president-elect do that with various people, past foes, the New York Times. So I wouldn't be surprised at all. And if Representative Lewis is calling this a bastard presidency, then he's also saying that the Constitution is a bastard document, because that's how we elect a president, based on the electoral process that we've got in it. And I think that Rand Paul actually sort of echoed what Megyn said, which is he has a very impressive and important past. And as Harris says, our history has to lighten the way to a better future.
Absolutely.
And because of his past and the fact that he was bloodied in that Selma March and nearly beaten to death, some would say, that doesn't mean that he's immune to present criticism. And if you're going to go out and say this is a bastard presidency, I think it's fair for people to respond to that.
Well, the legitimacy also lies in the hands of the American people. They elected this president. We go forth with that being... So what do you tell your children if your leaders, particularly those of us of color, don't want to go to the inauguration, that half the country or better voted for this president? We'll move on. Meanwhile, Congressman Lewis, we'll keep it here, is among a growing number of Democrats now, I've got the list in my hand, who say they are skipping President-elect Trump's inauguration. There are now 28 or more of them vowing to stay home or go do whatever it is they're going to go do, including more than 20% of all of California's representatives. One Wisconsin Democrat who said he was originally planning to go now says, quote, "I am no longer attending the event. At minimum, it's time for Donald Trump to start acting like President Trump, not an immature, undignified reality star with unquestionable friends and a Twitter addiction. I hope for better, but will not hold my breath," end quote. Vice President-elect Mike Pence, I know that elicited a laugh from you, Senator,
yes.
Says that the inauguration should be a time to put party politics aside. Watch that.
I attended both of Barack Obama's inaugurations, one as a congressman and one as a governor, because I believe inaugurations are a moment when we should come together around that individual who has been elected to be President of the United States of America.
You know, complicating this matter was the fact that the president-elect did jump on Twitter, and that kind of bloodied it, you know, verbally even more so. I first want to get your thoughts on that, and then I have this list, and it is growing.
It'll probably continue to grow, and I have a couple of different thoughts on the whole Twitter thing. I think it's one way to obviously go above what the mainstream media has been doing to him, which I think has really not been appropriate or fair. He has the ability, like past presidents of different times and eras, to go directly to the people, whether it's through radio, TV with JFK, and now obviously Twitter through the new social media outlets. That also being said, I think sometimes he shouldn't be swiping down. He shouldn't be worrying about the,